The National Education Association calling to drop the term mother. They want you to say birthing parent in contracts to be, quote, inclusive of all educators' families. As some NEA-backed Senate candidates are staying silent on the union's proposal, critics are slamming the NEA, saying it's holding parents and children hostage against its woke agenda. Joining us now, Parents Defending Education president and founder, Nicole Neily. Nicole, great to see you tonight. You know, I'm not a student of wokeism myself, so I really don't even understand what the argument could be in this case to replace the word mother with birthing parent, because actually it's even contradictory for people who use surrogates or various ways they have children. They're not necessarily the parent still. And so I'm just at a loss here. Try to explain to me what they're saying.
I think most people are at a loss. I think the NEA is trying so hard to be inclusive that they have inadvertently erased mothers. Let's remember, birthing people are mothers. And so this is part of, the left's agenda in trying to erase the role of women, right? That's why we saw Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson not defining what a woman is. We're seeing the Biden administration start to move forward on Title IX rules that will redefine what sex is and replace it with gender identity. And so it is part and parcel of a larger agenda that is frankly just trying to destroy things that many of us have held true for thousands of years.
I mean, there are a lot of people that, don't know anything except the terms mother and father and say, we just keep trying to change things. And back to do you remember the whole story about the male pregnant emoji? I still don't know what they were trying to get at, except that I know that a man cannot give birth to a child. And so you stand back and say, where are we going with this? In some ways, wokeism, has failed even the most woke. And when is it going to be time to stop with this?
It's been interesting because I think there's a lot of Democrats who are realizing how extreme wings of their party are. We saw Van Jones a few weeks ago say people don't use the term Latinx. People don't use, these terms like BIPOC. This is not what people talk about in the nail salon or in the barber salon, in the barber shop. And so I think there are people who are trying to get them to rein it back in because they see the writing on the wall. This is driving people away from them. Yet, there are still a group of ideologues that are determined to push this agenda forward, and I think they do so at their own peril.
And the NEA, has various views on many issues. And when it comes to abortion, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, I want to read to you this statement after that decision was released last month, saying, quote, overturning Roe v. Wade shows once again how the current majority of the Supreme Court is continuing to put their radical ideological agenda above our own basic human rights and freedoms. Now, there are a lot of people who would say that when it comes to human rights and freedoms, a late-term abortion does not match that description.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that they use the term radical agenda when that is very much what they're doing. Their assembly that they had this week where they voted on resolutions like coming out strongly supporting abortion, like anti-Israeli resolutions, supporting BDS. This shows just how out of touch the NEA is with the concerns of average American parents and families. And I think that's one reason we've seen so many families rise up over the past 2 years, because they realize that gatekeepers like the teachers' unions, who they assumed spoke for them and represented their interests, very much do not. It's about their money, their power, and their agenda, not our children and our concerns.
And the NEA is even debating continuing mandatory mask mandates in school, even though the entire country essentially has moved well past this. And this was a huge issue during the pandemic that had so many parents in an uproar. But they call themselves a social justice union. So is that what they're fighting for? Social justice with masking?
I mean, it's awkward to use the term the mask slips, but I guess, that is kind of what's happening. They have, at least they're not pretending to represent the interests of teachers working in the classroom or of families or of administrators. It is just advancing a social justice agenda. The masking, like you said, is something that is very, very out of touch with what average people want. We have seen the statistics. We know that children have had their development held back by this. Children have suffered from schools being closed. And let's remember, it was the teachers' unions that worked with the CDC to keep schools closed longer than any families in America wanted that closed. And so let's hold them accountable for this.
I remember, and parents were outraged, and parents are still outraged, as a matter of fact, because of, the policies that were implemented in schools and how long they were closed during the pandemic. We still don't know what the impact will be with respect to our children's learning, and a lot of people are worried about it. Nicole, it was great to see you tonight. Really appreciate you coming on the show.